Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and yes, as I teased in the last review, reviewing a film directed by Steven Spielberg and starring Tom Cruise, that being Minority Report. Yes, Minority Report. You know, the first things I have to say about this film, I thought was pretty good. Another good science fiction film directed by Steven Spielberg, and this was based on a short, story or whatever, by Philip K. Dick. Yeah, Philip K. Dick. And, yeah, again, I gotta say, an interesting piece of sci-fi and how the style of sci-fi in this film is. You get my point. So I'll go ahead and read the description / the story. In the year 2054 AD, crime is virtually eliminated from Washington, D.C., thanks to an elite law enforcing squad, Pre-Crime. They use 3 gifted humans called precogs with special powers to see into the future and predict crimes beforehand. John Anderton heads Pre-Crime and believes the system's flawlessness, yeah, got that right, steadfastly. However, one day, the precogs predict that Anderton will commit a murder himself in the next 36 hours. Worse, Anderton doesn't even know the victim. He decides to get to the mystery's core by finding out the Minority Report, hence, the title, which means the prediction of the female precog, Agatha, that might tell a different story and prove Anderton innocent. So again, I thought this film was pretty good, where the story / the plot goes. And, first off, Pre-Crimes, the fact that they can stop people from committing murders and stuff like that, I think that comes in handy, don't you think? Stopping people from doing murders and stuff like that. But something about Pre-Crime and its director, the man that's in charge of Pre-Crimes, there's something about this that changes forever at the end of the movie. And our main cast of characters, well, there's Chief John Anderton, played by Tom Cruise. And fun fact about Tom Cruise, I remember watching the behind the scenes of this film. He stated that he remembered seeing Jaws when it came out, and, he loved Jaws, and, seeing the rest of the films that Spielberg would go on to direct. And I think he stated that, he dreamed of working with Spielberg one day, and thus he did in this film. So that's pretty awesome. And I have no doubt that, other actors, they dreamed of working with a director, and thus they did. So that's pretty cool. And we also have the director of Pre-Crime, director Lamar Burgess, played by the late legendary Max von Sydow. Yeah, Max von Sydow. He is good in anything that he was in, and especially in this. There was also Jad. I don't think he didn't really have. He did have a big part, but not that much. Jad, played by Steve Harris, part of Pre-Crime. Also, Neil McDonough. I hope I'm saying the last name right. This guy, he's been in so much. I remember him best from Star Trek First Contact as Ensign Hawk. He plays Fletcher, and there's also Patrick Kilpatrick. I think I got that right. He plays Knot, and Jessica Capshaw plays Ivana, and the precogs. The precogs. There's a sister, and there are twin brothers, and Agatha being played by Samantha Morton. Yeah, Samantha Morton, she's a good actress, and she's been in a lot as well. And she plays Agatha because basically, one thing about Agatha, she has a big part in this film, and basically, she is the key to pre-crime. Yeah, but something about Agatha that we don't know quite yet, and her backstory. And also, yeah, John Anderton, his backstory, because basically, the film establishes that he was happily married and had a son, but at some point he unfortunately lost his son. Like, apparently, his son was captured, and, later on, it was discovered that he was murdered. And John Anderton's ex-wife was played by, who was it? Let me see. Her name was Laura. Yeah, Laura. Laura being played by... I hate it when IMDb does this sometimes with, the cast, Okay, Laura Clark being played by Catherine Morris. So they later on got divorced, and even Laura established to one of the characters in the film as to why, she left Anderton. Well, and this had to do with their son, of course. And the other characters, we also have Gideon, played by Tim Blake Nelson. Gideon is, like, the guard of all the prisoners that were taken in pre-crime, and, he would sometimes play, the organ because the prisoner, to keep the prisoners calm and stuff like that. And there's also Wally, the caretaker of the precogs, Wally played by Daniel London. And, I'll go ahead and mention this, that Daniel London is the only actor in the film to reprise his role in the Minority Report series that only lasted for one season. So, thought I'd mention that. And there was also one character that, pardon my French, he at first was kind of an asshole, especially to John Anderton, and that's Danny Whitwair, played by Colin Farrell. And basically, like, Danny, investigating at first pre-crimes, and if there's any flaws and stuff like that, and basically telling John that, he's under his command and stuff like that. Well, with what goes on in the film, because, yeah, John, pre-crimes, they can see the future, and with, the precogs, what happens in the future, and to stop any murders and crimes that happens, and with the precogs seeing the future, and, like these, like, wooden balls roll down, like, the victim and all that stuff, and, on the balls it has the name of the victims and so on. Well, at one point, even Agatha, like, interacted with John, warning him, basically, on what was to come, and even, like, seeing what she was seeing, because we see from the precogs their visions. And there's this one lady that is a very important part of this film, and that is the murder of Anne Lively. Yeah, Anne Lively. Anne Lively being played by Jessica Harper. And it's a complete mystery as to what happened with Anne Lively, because that had been floating around for a long time, of her murder and stuff like that, and it had never been figured out and so on. And at one point, the precogs, and especially Agatha, sees in the future that John Anderton is going to murder somebody. And thus, he is desperate to find out and to fix this. And, if he is supposed to kill who he's supposed to kill and all that stuff. And okay, I gotta tell you, like, okay, let's come to say the visual effects and the action in this film. Pretty good, and again, with the sci-fi style in this film and how the city and the future looks and with the vehicles, really well done. Like the sequence that starts off with John escaping in a car, but the car is programmed and activated, like, I think, yeah, to bring John in, but he escapes and, hopping on different cars, and he ends up, falling into, like, a yoga class, and he's positioned with, his legs like that, if you get what I'm trying to explain. And up to when, yeah, because those that are part of pre-crime, and especially Whitley, yeah, I think, like, I gotta check again, because again, I hate what IMDb does sometimes, just do it and just, like, don't list them randomly. Ay, okay, where was it? Yeah, Whitwair, sorry, Whitwair. Pre-crime and Whitwair on John's tail, and they end up, like, in a factory. Like, this factory, like, builds the futuristic cars. And, yeah, like a fight between John and Danny Whitwair, and even at one point, John gets stuck in a car that's being built, and you think that he's been crushed to death, but no. He survived from that, and, now he has control of the car, so that's pretty cool. And by the way, the music in the film, fantastic, being done by the legendary composer of music, John Williams. Like, it's pretty cool. And not to mention, and even IMDb says this in the trivia, that, this film and Attack of the Clones both have factory sequences. And with John Williams doing the music, you get the point. So, yeah, thought I'd mention that. And so, after that, throughout the rest of the film, and to speed things up, John trying to get evidence and clues, trying to figure out the whole thing of him supposedly going to kill someone. And the person that he is supposed to, point at gunfire, is a man by the name of Leo Crow, played by Mike Binder, yeah. And, and I think it's obvious because, we find out and we get some flashbacks of John and his son, because they were at a swimming pool, and at one point, John, he, like, he dove underwater, and to see how long he can hold his breath, and, even say had his son, like, hold a watch, to, counting down how long he can stay in there. I think for about, like, it was set to 42 or 45 minutes, I don't know. The watch went down in the water, and thus, yeah, he lost his son, and yeah, you think that Leo Crow had something to do with this, that maybe Leo killed his son. And even there was a lady that John met that was a part of pre-crime. I think she was responsible for the creation of pre-crime, if I remember correctly. Dr. Iris Heineman, played by Lois Smith. He gets some information and details from Dr. Iris, and especially about the Procogs, and especially Agatha, that Agatha has a minority report that has to do with John, supposedly going to kill Leo Crow. And by the way, because very early on, I forgot to mention this, that, when John is being chased by the pre-crime troops, and with, like, the shock sticks that they have, at one point, John uses, like, grabs the shock stick and, like, hits it on one of them, and causes, I think, like, it hits the throat, and it causes him to puke. And my dad, he found that disgusting. I'm not joking. Probably, yeah, because my dad, he doesn't like anything that has to do with vomit. So I don't blame him. I mean, how can anyone else stand to see someone vomit? Just saying. I don't know. What about saying cartoons? I mean, probably that's something different. But anyways, and then later on, I think, yeah, John gets help from a doctor to basically replace his eyes because, with his eyes and like the scanners can identify and, scan his eyes and know who he is, and thus, he needs his eyes, changed. And the doctor that helps do that procedure to take his, replace his eyes with different ones. The doctor's name was Dr. Solomon Eddy, played by Peter Stormare, yeah. And Dr. Eddy's assistant, Greta Van Eyck, if I'm saying that right, played by Caroline Lagerfeld. I hope I got that right. So they help, John with the procedure of, replacing his own eyes with different eyes. And yeah, I tell you, because with that going on, and the doctor tells John that he needs to keep a blindfold, around his eyes, like bandages around his like new eyes, and he can't open his eyes until I think 12 hours, I want to say. And with that, pre-crime comes in. They sent out these like tiny like robotic creatures, whatever they're supposed to be, with like spider-like legs, and basically like going into each apartment, like scanning like everybody's eyes up to when like they're this close to discovering John. And they do so, like the tiny robot with the legs, they discover John. He's hiding in a bathtub, and they discover John, and they scan one of his eyes, even though he's not supposed to open them. But, thankfully, like, he manages to be okay with the new eyes, and, it works. Like, they scan his eyes, and it doesn't indicate that he's John. So, yeah, he recovered from that. And, like, he goes in at one point, and he gets Agatha, because, of course, Agatha, he needs her help because of the supposedly, killing Leo Crow, sorry. However, in order to get the information and, the Minority Report from Agatha, he gets help from this one guy, where was he? Let me see. This guy, he basically, I think, okay, yeah, Rufus Riley at Cyber Parlor. I hope I said that right. Rufus, played by Jason Antoon. Blech. You know me pronouncing last names, so yeah, I can tell, because Rufus, he basically he created the thing of, virtual reality, like people having fantasy dreams and stuff like that. Like, one of them is being congratulated, like, I don't know, like, say, thank you for this Oscar and stuff like that, that stuff. And basically, Rufus, he has the ability to hack things, and thus John, gets Rufus's help. Rufus is the only one to help out on this, to hack and get the information from Agatha, the Minority Report that she carries, but, it doesn't work out. And mostly it's, it's mostly it's on the murder of Anne Lively. But, a little bit later, as John and Agatha, they make their way, and, like, they're still running from the pre-crime, and Agatha giving directions and guiding John on what to do and not to do, like, wait, so they don't get caught by pre-crime, like hiding behind balloons or using an umbrella, stuff like that. Up until, well, the moment has come where John does come face to face with Leo Crow. And as I mentioned, I think for, us audiences, we suspect that Leo Crow is responsible for the death of his son. And yeah, John thinks that's what it is. And you know what? He doesn't care because he is going to kill Leo Crow. But it turns out that, it wasn't Leo Crow. But the thing is that John is given a choice. He can change his future by not killing Leo Crow. The future can be changed for him or anybody else on what they do. That's the thing. And if Pre-Crime did not know about this or figured this out, you get my point. And thus, he doesn't kill Leo Crow. And yeah, Leo Crow is not the one that apparently killed John's son, Sean. Yeah. Basically, Leo was hired by someone, and basically, John was set up. And Leo wants John to kill him, because if he doesn't kill him, then the person that hired him, he won't help out his family, and thus, Leo grabs the gun and makes John pull the trigger, and gosh, I tell you, Samantha Morton's performance in this as Agatha, because Agatha can feel and sense that it's this close to happening, like the future and such, and thus it does. Leo kills himself, and gosh, Agatha just giving this horrific scream like this was not supposed to happen, but it did. And apparently, another thing I forgot to point out is that apparently what was seen that, John supposedly killing a man by the name of Leo Crow, thinking it was somebody with a pair of shades. But the guy with a pair of shades was from a billboard sign or something like that. So no, it was not that person on a billboard that was Leo Crow. So I just almost forgot to mention that. And thus, once again, John and Agatha, they run away. And by the way, more on, say, let me see, yeah, Danny Whitwair, because he meets up and, and meets with John's ex-wife, Laura. And we find out from Laura why she left John is because that she can see and smell their son. Whenever she looks at her husband and stuff like that. That's why, she had to leave. And yeah, but still, I don't know, because, it's a bit sad, it is. That's all I can really say. And I'd like to point out because I'm not sure. I thought at first that, director, where was he? Yeah, director Lamar Burgess. I thought he was a part of the family, maybe he was a relative of John or Laura, but no, I guess he's just a close friend of the family, basically, because, he knows Laura very well, and she knows Lamar very well, etc. And, of course, the same goes for John and Lamar. So, yeah, I can tell. Lamar is a close friend of the family. And at one point, Danny actually starts to figure out the whole thing with Anne Lively and how, it might have been someone else doing the murder and stuff like that, I can't put it to words, because all that talk and that kind of talk, I'm just saying, it is a bit difficult for me. And another thing about Danny, you think that he might be involved in this and he might have set up John, all that, but no, we find out, and the big twist is revealed, Director Lamar murders Danny. Director Lamar Burgess is the main villain in this film. He's responsible for everything, setting up and framing John. Just everything. It's insane. I guarantee you, because, when people first saw this, when it came out in theaters, I guarantee you that they were probably surprised by this big twist. And it's pretty good, with these kind of twists in movies. You really don't see this kind of thing coming. You get my point. And afterwards, John, along with Agatha, they, come to the house that Laura lives in. And, like a very, an emotional moment where I think, like, Agatha, like, sees a future that could have happened for their son, Sean, like, at college, at a university, and having a girlfriend, he wants to marry, stuff like that. But that future for their son, that never came to be. That's very sad. And she also brings up about Anne Lively and her daughter, that, her daughter was taken from her, and Anne Lively, being killed and drowned, as we saw in, the visions that Agatha had. And, of course, afterwards, like, Agatha telling John that he needs to run! Like, gosh, that scream and that shouting she gives to John, that, yeah, he needs to get out of there, but it's too late. Pre-crime arrests John. He's taken in. But a little bit later, Laura mentions more about, the whole thing of Anne Lively to director Lamar. And it was not like, she never brought this up to Lamar, but he accidentally said this. It slipped out of his mouth about Anne Lively drowning. And she gets suspicious about this and gets suspicious about Lamar, of course. And that's when she breaks out John from his prison cell. And that's when Laura and John, they expose Lamar, showing the footage of Anne Lively's death. And it was Lamar. He was in disguise. He murdered and drowned Anne Lively. And that basically ruins his career, and with that, pre-crime altogether. And the fact that, yeah, we find out that Agatha is the daughter of Anne Lively. Lamar kidnapped and took in Agatha because, as I said, she's the key to pre-crime. So, yeah, that's insane. And, a little bit later, because, up to when, a final confrontation between John and Lamar has a choice. He can change the future. Like, we see that apparently he kills John, but he can change that. And thus, that's what Lamar does. And I think, he doesn't really have, like, the grip to kill John, because, even Lamar admitted that John was the best cop that he knew and a good man, and he just couldn't bear to kill him because, I think, and it's obvious, Lamar saw John as a son to him, and he couldn't do it. And instead, he kills himself, and the last dying words he says to John, "Forgive me, my boy," and thus, he's dead. And after that, the epilogue. We get a narration from John. Pre-crime is no more. We see that John and Laura, they're back together, and they're expecting another child. So that's good. They get their happy ending. And the same goes for the precogs. They're free and they're happily living in, a cabin house, basically, literally out in the river on a tiny island, I guess you could say. And they have hair. They grew hairs. Just thought I'd mention that. And yeah, what a great way to end the film. Minority Report, I thought was really good. It is a great film, directed by Spielberg. Tom Cruise, he was great. The rest of the cast, the music by John Williams, the effects, the action and adventure, everything to this film was really good. And I'm giving Minority Report, 8 out of 10 stars. Yes, 8 out of 10 stars for Minority Report. And what about you guys? What did you think of Minority Report itself? And what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like as always. So, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Minority Report. More review videos coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video. review. And stay tuned later tonight because the next animated film I'm going to be reviewing this week, well, let's just say this is Pixar's first ever prequel film, and it's all about monsters going to college. You know what I'm talking about. Stay tuned for that later tonight. Take care, and peace out.